Hello and welcome to Weekly News Highlights, where we bring you some of the biggest stories that made the headlines this week. I'm Bae Eun-ji. Multiple short-range ballistic missiles were fired from North Korea on Friday morning, making them the first missiles launched by the regime in over 2 months. Addressing concerns over disruption to the healthcare system during the Chuseok holidays, the government plans to operate an emergency medical system for 2 weeks. More hospitals and clinics will be open, and doctors will see their pay increase temporarily. President Yoon Suk-yeol is set to visit the Czech Republic later this month as South Korea seeks to export its nuclear reactors to Europe. This comes after a Korean company was elected as the preferred bidder to build 2 nuclear power plants in the country. Right after the Chuseok holiday ends, President Yoon will visit the Czech Republic next Thursday. This was a trip already announced as the two nations expanded cooperation recently, especially with South Korea's consortium becoming the preferred bidder for a nuclear power plant there. Our presidential correspondent Kim Do-yeon has the details on the upcoming trip.
Nuclear Power Alliance. A new term was coined as the top office prepares for President Yoon Suk-yeol's official visit to the Czech Republic starting next Thursday. This trip comes as last July, the Czech government chose Korea Hydro and Nuclear Power as the preferred bidder to build 2 nuclear power units in Dukovany, a project worth 24 trillion Korean won, or about 17.3 billion US dollars.
The president, during this official visit to the Czech Republic, will convey Team Korea's firm commitment to the successful completion of the nuclear power plant project and will actively engage in sales diplomacy as the nation's #1 salesman to secure the contract. Especially, a nuclear power alliance between South Korea and the Czech Republic is expected to be established through this visit.
The 4-day visit will start with an official welcoming ceremony in Prague and a summit with Czech President Petr Pavel with an official dinner banquet. On Friday, he will meet with Czech Prime Minister Petr Fiala and visit the city of Pilsen to visit nuclear power production companies. Coming back to Prague with the Prime Minister, Yoon will sign MOUs for various fields, including trade, investment, and advanced technology. He will also meet with the leaders of both chambers of the Czech Parliament. And as he always does, he will meet with overseas nationals in the region for dinner. This trip has been much anticipated after the preferred bidder announcement that paves the way for more cooperation in advanced technology. In fact, for this trip, the pre-trip briefing was attended by the President's Senior Secretary for Science and Technology, something unprecedented and seemingly a move to highlight more cooperation in science and technology.
We intend to use this nuclear power collaboration as an opportunity to initiate full-scale scientific and technological cooperation between South Korea and the Czech Republic. First, we plan to resume the Korea-Czech Joint Committee on Science and Technology, which has been inactive for some time, elevate the status of the chief representatives to the Director General level, and formalize regular meetings every 2 years.
The Czech Republic is also known for its manufacturing capacities, especially in automobiles. More than 100 companies from South Korea are already operating in the country, and to enhance economic exchanges, the two nations are set to sign a trade and investment promotion framework during this trip. Also, the two are set to discuss cooperation in helping Ukraine amid the prolonged invasion by Russia, as Czech companies have extensive experience in working in Ukraine. Meanwhile, Yoon will also be accompanied by a business delegation made up of officials from more than 50 South Korean companies, from conglomerates to small businesses. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
To reassure the South Korean public and prevent further disruptions to healthcare during the Chuseok holidays, the government said a special emergency response system will be up and running for 2 weeks.
The government started operating the Special Emergency Response System on September 11th, and it will run for 2 weeks until September 25th to ensure people spend their holidays safely.
And during this period, around 8,000 hospitals and clinics will be open each day nationwide. Also, over 150 hospitals for pregnancy and childbirth across the country will stay open throughout the holidays. The government also urged people with mild symptoms to visit local clinics instead of major hospitals. For those looking for an open hospital, they can dial 129 or use the Naver or Kakao Map functions to quickly find available medical facilities. To ensure proper care for critical patients, the government will temporarily increase service fees for specialists at emergency medical centers to 3.5 times the usual rate in recognition of the dedication of healthcare workers. These Chuseok holidays, some are feeling the pinch of higher prices of grocery items, prompting them to look for ways to save. For more on this, we have our economics correspondent Lee Soo-jin joining us in the studio today. Welcome, Soo-jin.
Thanks for having me.
So, Soo-jin, what do you suggest as a good way for shoppers to save this holiday?
Sure, so with the Chuseok holiday weekend now upon us, many have already started grocery shopping. But the cost of preparing a Chuseok ancestral rites table, commonly used to gauge how high prices are during the holiday, has risen compared to last year. So let's take a look at some ways that shoppers can save. Shoppers in South Korea are scrambling to shop smart ahead of Chuseok, or the Korean Thanksgiving holiday. But the items on their shopping lists are going up in price.
Prices of food, especially fruits like apples, have gone up a lot.
The average cost to prepare an ancestral rite table for Chuseok for a 4-person family rose 1.8% on year to 280,791, or around $209. But buying these items at traditional markets was surveyed to cost around $179, 17% cheaper than the $214 it would cost at large supermarkets. And shopping with onuri discount vouchers is a way to save even more at traditional markets. This Chuseok, the discounts have been up to 15%, and some traditional markets even offer vouchers if customers spend a certain amount. This means customers can purchase $100 worth of goods for $85 with the vouchers. One chicken stall vendor says that she's seen an uptick in onuri voucher usage thanks to the Chuseok measures.
Around 70% of purchases are made with onuri vouchers. For us vendors, this is great because they work like cash and attract more customers to shop here.
As for what you might find on a Chuseok ancestral rite table, meat like chicken, chestnuts, vegetables such as green onions, and seafood such as pollock were all surveyed to be cheaper at traditional markets than at large supermarkets this year. Consumers can also shop at farmers markets set up by district governments in Seoul to offer cheaper groceries and to support farms nationwide during the Chuseok holiday.
I come every year because the food here is fresh.
At this farmers market in Gangnam-gu district, popular Chuseok items are sold directly by around 80 farms nationwide for around 10% less than standard market prices. Despite the sweltering heat, these people have gathered since early in the morning, eager to buy fresh and affordable food to share with their families during the holiday.
And are there any items that are actually cheaper at large supermarkets?
Yes, and that's why shopping around is also a way to shop smart. Fruits like apples and pears, along with sikhae, the traditional Korean rice drink, were found to be cheaper at large supermarkets due to Chuseok sales. The government is also closely monitoring prices to keep them low. Here's what the finance minister said at Thursday's economic ministerial meeting.
Ahead of Chuseok, we will work to stabilize prices by increasing supply, as some items remain costly due to the heat wave.
The government increased the supply of apples and pears to wholesale markets by 3.5 times the usual amount, starting 3 weeks before the holiday. And just 2 days ago on Thursday, ministers from Finance, Agriculture, Oceans, and SMEs ministries all visited a traditional market in Seoul to check prices. They acknowledged how prices of some items, such as vegetables, remained high due to the prolonged heat wave and pledged to further stabilize prices through additional measures such as expanding supply.
Right, and Susan, is there a best time to shop?
Well, there actually might be. Interestingly enough, Chuseok this year fell earlier than last year when it began on September 28th and ended on September 30th. And that's also partly why prices of some fruits like pears are high, as the harvest period is not yet finished. This is why shopping as late as possible might be yet another way to minimize costs.
Right, but why do many people feel that Chuseok items are so expensive?
Right, so a lot of people that we met at the market said that they still felt the pressure of high prices. Even though inflation slowed to the government's target in August, the consumer price index came to 114.54 last month, up 2% from the previous year, the lowest rate since March 2021. The index has been showing a downward trend as it has been under 3% for 5 straight months since April, and it fell after seeing a slight jump in July. But prices of certain items have, in fact, gone up. Here's why, according to an expert.
Prices for Chuseok items specifically are expected to rise due to increased demand, which is different from the CPI data that represents overall prices.
But by taking advantage of all these ways and places to save, shoppers will be able to honor their ancestors this Chuseok holiday without having to break the bank.
All right, Sujin, thank you so much for your reports today.
Anytime.
North Korea resumed missile provocations on Thursday, having fired short-range ballistic missiles multiple times. The launch came just hours after the regime sent another round of trash-carrying balloons across the border. Our An Sung-jin explains the intention behind the North's move.
North Korea on Thursday morning fired multiple short-range ballistic missiles toward the East Sea. South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff said they're analyzing the types and range of the missiles launched from the Pyongyang area. It added that the missiles flew approximately 360 kilometers before landing in the East Sea. The last time the North fired ballistic missiles was on July 1st, which Pyongyang said were successful test launches of a new type of tactical ballistic missile. The Joint Chiefs of Staff emphasized that North Korea's missile launch is a clear provocative act that seriously threatens the peace and stability of the Korean peninsula, and said they remain on high alert for potential additional launches.
The short-range ballistic missile provocation may have been a backlash against our recent joint exercises or could be a test for export to Russia.
South Korea's foreign ministry said the U.S. and Japan will also continue to closely monitor the possibility of additional launches and respond firmly to North Korea's threats through a strong South Korea-U.S. alliance and trilateral security cooperation. An official at the Unification Ministry also stated that at a time of urgent recovery from flood damage, the provocations demonstrate the falsehood of the regime's propaganda, while a professor suggests that these provocations hint at North Korea's ambitions.
Kim Jong-un proclaimed that North Korea is simply ready for another war, and especially they said that the top priority of the national goal is to reoccupy South Korea by the force. So I think this is one of their attempts to, in some sense, continue to ready for the war against South Korea.
North Korea's launch of ballistic missiles follows the sending of more trash-carrying balloons towards the south on Wednesday evening. However, most of those balloons were carried by the wind back north of the military demarcation line. Speculation is rising that this could hint at a return to provocations against the south, after trash balloons were sent for 5 consecutive days from September 4th until the 8th. Watchers also say the North may increase provocations ahead of the U.S. presidential election in November. An Sung-jin, Arirang News.
And while it continues to advance its weapons development, North Korea has for the first time publicly revealed a uranium enrichment facility, a key component of its nuclear weapons program. This display of its nuclear arsenal development is being seen as an attempt to put pressure on the U.S. ahead of the presidential election. Our Muneran reports.
North Korea showed its uranium enrichment facility for the first time as leader Kim Jong-un took a tour of the site and urged further nuclear weapons development. Photos released by the state-run Korean Central News Agency on Friday showed Kim walking past rows of centrifuges that process uranium to be made into nuclear fuel, learning about the operation of its production lines. Kim reportedly said he felt strong just looking at the technology on display and pressed for the need to strengthen Pyongyang's nuclear capabilities. He also outlined a long-term plan to do so. Experts say that the surprise disclosure could serve a number of different purposes for the regime.
Firstly, Kim Jong-un seeks to demonstrate through concrete actions that his recent statement about exponentially increasing nuclear weapons was not merely rhetoric. Second, the regime aims to convey that North Korea is prepared to counter any nuclear threat with its own nuclear force regardless of who becomes the next U.S. president in the upcoming election.
The KCNA did not reveal when the visit occurred or the location of the facility. South Korea and US intelligence authorities believe that North Korea has uranium enrichment facilities in Yangbyon, North Pyongan province, and in the Kangsan complex near Pyongyang. In a briefing on Friday, Seoul's Unification Ministry addressed the KCNA report.
The government strongly condemns North Korea for revealing its uranium enrichment facility and its intent to accelerate its nuclear capabilities and produce material for tactical nuclear weapons. North Korea must understand that neither South Korea nor the international community will ever accept its possession of nuclear weapons under any circumstances.
The spokesperson added that any nuclear threat or provocation from North Korea will face a strong response from South Korea and the US, based on the robust alliance and extended deterrence system. 문혜련, Arirang News.
Tae Yong-ho, the first North Korean defector to be elected as a politician in South Korea, is now the Secretary General of the Peaceful Unification Advisory Council. This constitutional body advises the president on unification policy. Our Kim Jong-sil met with them.
Tae Yong-ho's career has taken a route few could imagine. Formerly North Korea's deputy ambassador to the UK, he defected to South Korea in 2016 and made headlines in 2020 as the first defector elected as a lawmaker, winning a National Assembly seat in Gangnam-gu district. In July, he became the first North Korean defector to be named Secretary General of the Peaceful Unification Advisory Council, which advises the president on unification policy.
The appointment as a Secretary General of Peaceful Unification Advisory Council would give a very important message to North Korea that if Korea is reunified with freedom and democratic system, the future reunified Korea would not discriminate any person because of the background.
How has the mission of the Council changed with the current geopolitical climate, with the North being very tough on us and refusing to talk to us?
First of all, I think my mission is to deliver to North Korean side that South Korean government as well as South Korean population do not wish or want any war or conflict with North Korea. And the second thing is denuclearization of North Korea. Now, North Korea's nuclear and missile capability is ever increasing. That's why the security, the framework on Korean Peninsula is getting more and more dangerous. The most effective and pragmatic way to stop the nuclear war on Korean Peninsula is to strengthen the ROK-US military alliance together with the help of Japan.
This week, around 740 council members stationed in the Americas visited Seoul for the first time since their appointment a year ago. As civil diplomats, they promote unification policy to the international community.
What is the value of the Council's work without reciprocation from the North, though?
Oh, yes, a very good question. So far, North and South has had a common point. The common point was reunification. South Korean government, together with the United States and the world community, tried very hard to bring a permanent peace by dialoguing with North Korean regime as a partner, but all approaches failed. So Yoon Suk-yeol government's new paradigm is that the dialogue is still open to North Korean regime, but the Yoon Suk-yeol government want to change, you see, the North Korean people's feelings, aspiration, and dream for reunification, and we want to encourage and inspire this dream.
Secretary General Tae said freedom both brought challenges and opportunities. His own journey hopes to serve as a powerful call for those still in the North to envision a different future. Kim Jong-sil, Arirang News.
Over in the U.S., with the presidential election just 50 days away, Democratic nominee Kamala Harris and Republican nominee Donald Trump showed off their starkly different thoughts and visions for the country during their first TV debate. Our An Sung-jin has the details.
Fierce, fast-moving exchanges continued throughout the entire debate. With 8 weeks to go until the U.S. presidential election, Kamala Harris and Donald Trump faced off for the first time in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The two candidates talked about the economy, immigration, abortion, and healthcare, among other key issues. Vice President Harris, while mentioning that the Trump administration saw the worst unemployment since the Great Depression, stated that Trump's tax cuts are for the rich and would create a deficit. Former President Trump criticized the Biden administration, saying its policy failures had made inflation worse and that Harris did not have a plan to improve the economy. The debate also got often heated.
She went out, wait a minute, I'm talking now, if you don't mind, please. Does that sound familiar?
Yet again, I said it at the beginning of this debate, you're going to hear a bunch of lies coming from this fellow.
Trump also spoke while his microphone was muted, saying she doesn't have a plan, and once unmuted, added statements against Harris's plan to combat inflation. Some of the other key topics discussed were immigration and border control, as well as reproductive rights. Trump reiterated conspiracies about migrants stealing and eating people's pets. And when questioned about abortion, he said he would not sign a federal abortion ban, though Harris noted that Trump had hand-selected members of the U.S. Supreme Court who would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. She also attacked Trump's close ties with dictators, including Kim Jong-un, which she called a love letter-sending relationship. Trump replied by citing Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban, who said that both China and North Korea fear him. Regarding foreign policy, Harris also emphasized the need for a policy about China, as the race with the U.S. on technologies such as AI and quantum computing intensifies. An Sung-jin, Arirang News.
When it comes to travel, South Korea, China, and Japan are often popular destinations for each other. With this in mind, tourism ministers from these three countries met in Japan for the first time in 5 years. Our culture correspondent Song Yoo-jin has the details.
40 million. That's the new annual target for trilateral people-to-people exchanges set by South Korea, China, and Japan by 2030, an increase of 10 million from the current levels. This goal was set at the 10th South Korea-China-Japan Tourism Ministers meeting held in Kobe, Japan on Wednesday, the first meeting of its kind since 2019. Attended by South Korea's Minister of Culture, Sports and Tourism Yoo In-chun, China's Vice Minister of Culture and Tourism Jang Jung, and Japan's Minister of Land, Infrastructure, Transport and Tourism Saito Tetsuo, the focus this year was on 3 areas: engaging the younger generations, boosting regional tourism, and improving travel convenience.
The younger generations represent the future of all 3 countries. We discussed how governments should step up efforts to encourage more school trips between our nations.
They also shared ideas on promoting tourism in lesser-known regions of each country, especially as all 3 face shrinking populations and significant regional imbalances, while popular destinations struggle with over-tourism.
We agreed on the importance of revitalizing regional airports and expanding bus routes and other forms of public transport. The idea is to develop policies that bring more tourists in to visit regions beyond major cities like Seoul, Busan, and Jeju.
We'll share effective strategies with each other, like the policy package our government introduced last October to address over-tourism. We agreed on the importance of dispersing visitors from overcrowded tourist spots and ensuring a more balanced spread of tourists across the country.
However, increasing tourism isn't just about attraction. It's also about convenience. The 3 countries touched on ways to improve the entry and departure processes, such as the pre-entry immigration screening system Seoul and Tokyo are considering. The meeting concluded with the signing of a joint declaration that included these commitments, with the 3 sides promising to meet in China next year. So with the tourism ministers meeting concluding on Wednesday, next up is the South Korea, China, Japan culture ministers meeting, scheduled to take place in Kyoto on Thursday. Song Yoo-jin, Arirang News, Kobe.
In a world often dominated by sleek, modern architecture, a centuries-old Korean tradition is experiencing a global resurgence. A unique educational program is helping to preserve and promote the ancient art of Hanok construction. Our Buneran went there to take a look.
Hundreds of small, carved wooden blocks fill this room, all in various stages of completion. It may not look like much now, but they are the building blocks of Hanok, a style of traditional Korean architecture beginning to gain traction globally thanks to its unique characteristics that set it apart from Western-style buildings in the modern day. Jeonbuk National University's Kochang campus offers a wide variety of Hanok education programs that range from a hobbyist course to a 4-year undergraduate degree, funded by the Ministry of Land, Infrastructure and Transport in an effort to conserve Hanok culture. Students come from a wide variety of backgrounds as a result, including this group of students who are learning how to build ondol, an underfloor heating system, and how to apply clay to walls. They're all professionally trained architects wanting to integrate Hanok elements into their work, and 2 months into the course, their perspectives on Hanok are changing.
I used to think of Hanok as just houses that people used to live in back in the day. But since I began this course, I realized it's more complex and worth studying in depth.
Another key aspect of Hanok architecture is that it can be built and then taken apart again like Lego blocks. This is possible because these buildings don't use nails but interlocking pieces to keep the structure sturdy, and students are able to build pavilions like this before disassembling them to donate to disadvantaged communities or public institutions to be reassembled on site.
As you can see behind me, students are busy learning techniques that are essential for Hanok building, especially woodwork.
Wood and soil are the primary materials that go into building Hanok, making traditional Korean architecture eco-friendly and sustainable. As current global architectural trends are centered around sustainability, Hanok is an attractive building model overseas. The university exports Hanok to many countries around the world, including the likes of Vietnam, the Philippines, Algeria, and the United States.
The most rewarding aspect of teaching the program here is when people overseas recognize the beauty of Hanok when we export Hanok to their countries. The future of Hanok seems bright, with more orders coming in and women also taking an interest in learning Hanok architecture.
With this global boom, the localization of Hanok to fit their new overseas environment will be the next step in preserving and promoting Hanok culture. 문혜련, Arirang News, Kochang.
Now that's all for this week's edition of Weekly News Highlights. Thank you for watching. And on behalf of all of us here at Arirang News, we hope you have a great rest of the weekend.